What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome to my channel and welcome to, well, if you've been on my channel before, you know that I like to do these kind of videos where it's just me and you and a microphone talking about some college football. And in this video, I'm going to be doing two things for you guys. The first thing I'm going to be doing is, well, we are going to be going through and kind of previewing the rest of week 0. Again, there are 4 games on the slate this year. We've already broke down one in its entirety, and that's Florida State versus Georgia Tech. That game's going to happen in Dublin. It's the biggest game of week 0, as we're going to be previewing the biggest games week by week here on the channel in its own separate videos. Maybe I'll do videos like this, sort of previewing and breaking down what's to come, and I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do that yet. But I'm also in this video going to be telling you guys why I'm so excited for the college football season. Hopefully this is not too long of a video. I do like to ramble sometimes, but if you are as big of a college football nerd as I am, you're going to want to hear what I have to say during the college football season, and especially because I'm just going to be uploading a lot of content this next season. So, hey, you got to make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when every single one of my videos gets uploaded, and hopefully one of them even piques your interest a little bit. And I just want to thank you guys so much for not only watching this video, but for continuing to support my channel, whether that's through prediction season this past summer, you're continuing to support it through this college football season, you've been a longtime viewer of the channel, or even if this is the first video you're watching, I really appreciate all the love and support I can get. Interact with the channel any way you can. It all helps support what I do here on YouTube. Liking, commenting, sharing, and anything else I have or haven't said yet, feel free to do so at your leisure. Whatever you may please, it all helps support the channel, and whatever you do does mean a lot to me. All right, so without further ado, we'll get into the first order of business now, and it's going to be predicting the rest of week 0. And before we do that, longtime viewers of the channel will know the whiteboard. The whiteboard is coming back. We'll probably end up doing so. Oh, the one thing I also didn't say, I'm going to try to use Twitter a lot more this year, kind of post updates, not only about my life as a YouTuber and what stuff is going to be going up here on my channel as a content creator, but again, just as that, as a content creator in general. I'm a sports media major where I go to college. You can find all the work I do there. I'm going to be posting a lot more. So if you're interested in more than just college football, you want to know a little bit more about what else I do in the sports media realm, feel free to give that a follow. It's at TailgateNate29. Now let's get back to the important thing here, and boom, that is the whiteboard. On the other side over here, yeah, you can kind of start to see I've been busy. I got all the week 1 matchups for the most part set up. I think there are a couple magnets I still have to make, but our focus right now is right here. The 4 games that are taking place in week 0. You can take a look at those matchups there, but in case you don't recognize any one of the logos, I'll help you out right here. Apologies for any glare that may end up showing up on the whiteboard. But we've already previewed this game in its entirety. The 10th ranked Florida State Seminoles going up against the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Again, I think Florida State's going to end up winning that game. I think Florida State's got a lot of really good weapons, and I think they have more advantages than Georgia Tech will here in this game. Again, if you want to see a more thorough breakdown, I do have a video already up on my channel previewing that game in Dublin, so make sure you go ahead and go give it a watch. But let's talk about these 3 games right here now, and we're going to start out with this one. That's the Montana State Bobcats going on the road to face the New Mexico Lobos. And this is actually a little bit of an interesting game for a couple of reasons. One, if you're looking for FCS to FBS upsets, which usually there are plenty of those to find in any college football season, this one might be the easiest one to lock in the FCS opponent. However, I am going to tell you, don't sleep on New Mexico. Now, personally, I am picking Montana State to win that game. I did my New Mexico football preview just a little bit ago, not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, I should say. I did have Montana State beating New Mexico then, and I'm not changing my prediction from now. So I still think Montana State going to wind up winning that game, but now let me tell you why. Montana State's going to have a really good rushing attack this year, and that's the main focal point of their offense. They got 3 or 4, maybe even 5 really, really good backs back there. Head coach coming back. They were one of the best FCS teams last season. The defense can be up and down at times, but overall a really solid defensive bunch there for the Bobcats. But for New Mexico, the reason you don't count them out is because of the guy that's at the helm for them right now. Bronco Mendenhall has built programs before. He was able to do it with Virginia, was able to make them one of the better teams in the ACC, at least for a couple of seasons. Took a year off, now is back in coaching, and I think in time we'll get this New Mexico program gaining towards or growing towards where they want to go. but I don't see this year being super successful, even though they do have some pretty darn good pieces. And look, it's not like this is going to be a bloodbath, right? This is going to be a very competitive game, but one that I still see Montana State being able to win. I think they get the FCS to FBS upsets, possibly one of many to come this college football season. We'll talk about this one right here. And this one I do think is going to be a little bit of a bloodbath. SMU has got to go on the road to play the Nevada Wolfpack, the new team to the ACC, the SMU Mustangs, and against a Nevada team that, look, has a new head coach this season as well. And Jeff Choate, former linebacker coach at Texas, helped out a lot with that defense. He was at Montana State, believe it or not, as well. But that's a program, much like New Mexico out of the Mountain West, that I just think is going to need a rebuild. And even though that, again, some solid pieces are there, much like the New Mexico Lobos, I think the Wolfpack are just going to need a big rebuild, and SMU has got Preston Stone, a lot of speed, really good offense, really good defense. They're going to be able to compete in the ACC. This is one of their non-conference games, and I think they're not going to have a hard time with the Nevada Wolfpack. So I do have the SMU Mustangs winning that one. And then this game, again, I also don't think is going to be particularly close. Interesting thing with Delaware State, and if you actually didn't hear about this, it's kind of sad, but it's also kind of funny at the exact same time. I'll just kind of call it for what it is. Delaware State ended up missing their plane, which actually is very, very unfortunate because they have to travel from Dover, Delaware, all the way to Honolulu, Hawaii, which I think is darn near 5,000 miles, might be like 4,500, somewhere closer to there. But I mean, that is a very, very long distance to travel. And look, just when you go through and take a look at that scenario, I mean, they had a bunch of bus problems, and it's really hard to find a plane that's going to get 150 people, football players, coaching staff, and all of that luggage onto that plane and to get them to Honolulu. Now, as far as I know, the game is still going on as scheduled. Haven't really heard anything of if they're in Hawaii, if they're not. Again, just going to kind of have to wait and see on that. The game, again, supposed to be going on as scheduled, so definitely will be keeping an eye on that. But even if Delaware State does get there, and even if they play their best, that's just not a very good team out of the FCS level. And Hawaii, well, they return Braden Shager at quarterback. They got some really good wide receiver pieces. That passing attack is going to be lethal, and I think that's all they need to beat the Delaware State Hornets. I do think that that's going to be a win for the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. So to recap, Florida State, Montana State, SMU, and Hawaii are my predicted winners for week 0 this year. In a normal week where there's, this many college football games to cover, I probably won't be going through every game. I might point out some of the more interesting games, some of the games that are catching my eye, maybe some games that you don't even have on your radar that I'm like, if you get a chance, pay attention and watch this one. But yeah, anyways, that is my prediction or I should say my predictions for week 0. And if you want to go ahead and click off the video now, you're just here for the week 0 preview. That part is done. Now I want to and look at that, almost exactly at the 8-minute mark. Look at me go. I will not have better timing than that throughout my entire life. But now I just want to talk for a few minutes, not too terribly long, at least I'm going to try not to make it that way, about why I'm so excited for this college football season. Now, I am open and just very, very, you guys know how I am if you've been on this channel. There you go. That's my team. That's my team right there. I am an Ohio State Buckeye fan. I'm from Columbus, Ohio. I love the Ohio area. I love the scarlet and gray. I bleed those colors, and that is my team. Part of the reason I'm really excited for this year because I think my team is going to be really, really good. But apart from that, apart from obviously Ohio State probably going to end up being one of the best teams in the nation. They have maybe the best roster in the nation, you could argue, and everything of the like. I'm just excited to watch college football in general. We have a ton of conference realignment. Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. I can't wait to see how the Longhorns, who I think are going to be one of the best teams in the country, fare out against teams like Georgia and Ole Miss and Bama. And, well, we actually know they beat Bama last year. But, again, some of the other SEC competition and also Oklahoma. What's that defense going to look like in SEC play? Is Jackson Arnold ready to take the step from the Big 12 to the SEC in his first year as a starting quarterback? These are all going to be very interesting questions to answer. And you look beyond that, the Big 10 also added a lot more schools. Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA, they expanded all the way out to the West Coast to go get some new teams. Oregon, of which is going to be one of the best teams in the country this season. But yes, you have Ohio State, you have Georgia, you have Oregon, you have Texas, to what a lot of people think are going to be the top 4 teams in the nation this season. But beyond that, those 4 teams probably will end up making the college football playoff. Guys, it's no longer a 4-team system. it's a 12-team system. That means we get a group of 5 team in there. And honestly, let's just go beyond the Power Four scope for a second. It is. I guess when you go back to conference realignment, you have Cal, you have SMU, you have Stanford that have also entered new conferences. The Big 12 has gone through changes as well. So now adding on to BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston, you've also added Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado is back, Utah is there. And I mean, there are just so many storylines that we could talk about for days on that. But again, if you go beyond the Power Four scope into the 12-team playoff, the group of 5 race is going to be really, really interesting this year because, yeah, you have your mainstays and teams that, again, a lot of people think are going to be really good this year, like your Liberties, who won, or I should say, got the group of 5 honor last year to go play in the New Year's Six bowl game. Now they can go play for a national championship in the college football playoff. You have the Boise State Broncos, you have the Memphis Tigers, but then you also have some other teams that you need to watch out for, mainly a lot of the top teams in the Sun Belt. James Madison and App State, I think, are going to be right there, and if we stay in the Sun Belt Conference, Texas State, I even think, can make a run. What if someone in the MAC decides to emerge, right? We could see a team like Miami or Toledo, maybe even Ohio or Bowling Green, if they end up getting that far in the college football playoff. And look, the top 4 teams get a conference bye. What is Notre Dame going to do? And Notre Dame's going to be a big thing to watch in the conference realignment round, but they're going to be a really, really good team to watch this season as well. The chaos and the tension and all of that will just never be higher. And look, good games are still going to be good games, even though Ohio State, Oregon playing in Eugene this year, even though Georgia, Texas playing in Austin this year might not have the biggest and playoff or as big of playoff ramifications as it had before. Guys, there's still going to be incredible games, and I think a 12-team playoff gives more games meaning because again, yeah, like you could lose that game. Like Ohio State could go on the road to lose to Oregon and then win the Big Ten champ. They still get the first round bye, or even for some other teams like Missouri, right? Missouri is a college football playoff hopeful. You know, if they have a couple losses in there, but they have a couple really good wins, I mean, it's just going to be a very interesting college football playoff race. There are a ton of teams that can make their case known. And if you thought picking 4 college football playoff teams was hard last season, of course, there was the whole Florida State debacle that happened last year, right? Alabama ended up getting the call instead of the Florida State Seminoles, to which, I mean, come on, we got one of the best college football playoffs in just, well, I was going to say in recent history, but the college football playoff really isn't that old. We got one of the best college football playoffs ever. Those were exceptional semifinal games. The national championship even was good at points until Michigan started to really break away from the Washington Huskies there around the third quarter. But overall, guys, I just think you're going to see higher quality football this year because, yes, while games like Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas might not mean as much in terms of, well, the loser, you know, needs to do a lot to still make the college football playoff. Guys, they still are going to mean a ton for all the coaches and all the players that are playing. They're going to mean a ton for the fans, and big games are still just monstrously fun to watch. And just, I will have no complaints when Ohio State goes into Autzen Stadium, when Georgia goes in to DKR, when Georgia and Alabama play, when Georgia and Ole Miss play. Georgia's has got a lot of big games this season. Penn State is going to host Ohio State this season. Not the whiteout game, I don't think, unfortunately. But again, you just got big games all across the entire country. It's just going to be such a fun year to watch. The ACC feels pretty darn open. Maybe Florida State's at the top, but there are a lot of teams that can contend in the ACC. The Big 12 is wide open as per usual, but I mean, half of that league can go make the conference title game and get a spot in the college football playoff. You might even see 2 teams in the college football playoff representing the Big 12, maybe 2 teams from the college football playoff representing the SEC, because there's just so many landscape changes. I've been calling for an expanded playoff forever, and while I maybe would have liked to see them do 8 teams before they do 12. I'm not going to be complaining about 12 at all. It's more football, and especially as you get into the college football playoff realm of things, guys, it's going to provide more quality football. I mean, just look at some of the college football playoff brackets that people are putting out. You'll get mine later on next week, probably on Monday or Tuesday, as we're going to finish up a group of 5 standings predictions there as well. But guys, just when you take a look at college football this year, I don't know how you cannot be excited. There are going to be so many good teams this year, but there are a couple questions that I do want answered this college football season. This year, is there going to be 1 or 2 of the elite teams that really separate themselves? Kind of like everyone's thinking with Georgia, Ohio State, Texas, and Oregon. Are they going to separate themselves in a class of their own? or are the lines going to be blurred? Are we going to have a lot of chaos? Is this going to be a season to where there's just a whole bunch of chaos and upsets and teams moving up and down? And what's the college football playoff committee criteria going to look like? They've obviously taken conference champs out because now they get an automatic bid, so they don't really need to look at that anymore. But how are they going to fare with teams that play in their conference championship game versus that don't play in their conference championship game? What are they? I mentioned Notre Dame earlier. What are they going to do with them? They will not be able to get that extra game until they join a conference, if they ever join a conference. So in Notre Dame, they already can't finish higher than fifth just because of the way everything works out. Do they value teams that played in their conference championship more than Notre Dame? And does that slide Notre Dame down some? It's just going to be such a fascinating season filled with so many storylines, and I can't wait. I'm so happy that college football is finally back, and I know it's week 0. We just get a little taste of the college football season before we really jump in there in week 1. But guys, I couldn't be more excited. You saw a little bit of the week 1 slate over here, and we'll kind of preview that a little bit. You get to look for a couple seconds. I got to make a couple more magnets and everything. So there you go. Look, 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 look. Wow, that got messed up bad. Oh, sorry, it went away. Oh, darn. I know it's YouTube. You can pause and you can look at it, but the week 1 slate is amazing. Even the week 0 slate, guys, has got some teams I'm really intrigued to watch. I'm actually really intrigued to watch how Bronco Mendenhall in New Mexico does against one of the better teams in the FCS ranks this season. I believe Montana State at very least is top 10. Hawaii, I'm actually very curious to see how that trend continues. We'll see how Nevada looks, but again, you got to be really excited to watch the 3 teams in the ACC. Florida State versus Georgia Tech has the ability to be a sneaky good game, and then SMU, right? A team that was really good out of the American last season. Uh, and then I believe even won the American Athletic Conference last year, and now they're moving on into the ACC. So they got a lot of really good players. I mean, just again, I could sit here and talk on and on and on, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it there. Enjoy your first college football Saturday of the season. I know I'm going to enjoy the heck out of it and enjoy the rest of your Friday night. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Again, don't forget to follow me on Twitter. Do anything you can to help support the channel next week, as well as week 1 preview and predictions. A game preview and predictions, I should say. We'll be wrapping up with my group of 5 standings recaps, as well as my not conference championship predictions. I sort of give those in my standings recaps, as well as my college football playoff predictions before week 1 officially kicks off. I'll say it again. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. See all you guys in the next one. Goodbye.